2 months after 9/11, a plane takes off on a routine flight from New York. But within seconds, the aircraft is in trouble.
What the hell are we into?
On the ground below, New Yorkers witness the terrifying sight. As the pilot struggles at the controls, the aircraft is torn apart. Within seconds, the plane plummets to Earth, smashing into a once peaceful suburb. 265 people are dead. Terrorism, design failure, human error. The tragedy that befell 587 will spark one of the most baffling and far-reaching investigations ever carried out. The truth will rock the aviation industry to its core. Now, using advanced computer simulation, we reveal exactly what happened in the Queen's air crash. Disasters don't just happen. They're a chain of critical events. Unravel the fateful moments in those final seconds from disaster. United States, New York, Queens, November 12, 2001. 6:30 a.m. JFK Airport is on high alert. The atrocity of 9/11 is still fresh in the minds of Americans. And for everyone in the airline industry, security is a major concern. On the tarmac, the crew of American Airlines Flight 587 prepare for a 3.5-hour flight to the Dominican Republic. Captain Ed States, the senior pilot, and his first officer, Sten Molen, carefully check the exterior of their aircraft. Traveling to the Dominican Republic this morning are 251 passengers. Among them, 83-year-old Hipólito Algaroba and his 73-year-old wife, Ubencia. The elderly couple have decided to return to their homeland for their twilight years and are expecting their son, Hector, to show up and see them off.
They're going home for good because they have raised 3 kids and their job is done.
By 9 a.m., all 251 passengers are on board.
I'll program the computer.
Pre-flight checks are complete, and Flight 587 begins to taxi to runway 31L. It's a fine day, and Sten Molen, the co-pilot, will fly the plane on the first leg. 9:11 a.m. A Japanese Airlines 747 immediately in front of 587 is cleared for takeoff. The controller gives Molen and States a routine caution. He tells them there's a risk of air turbulence from the Japanese plane ahead.
Clear for takeoff, American 587 Heavy.
Their flight path will take them across Jamaica Bay and over the Rockaway Peninsula in the borough of Queens. Today is Veterans Day, a public holiday, but not everyone is having the day off.
Okay, I'm off.
Police Chief Michael Morley and his wife will be working. His mother-in-law is looking after their 2-year-old baby, Michael Jr.
Okay, Mikey.
It was just another day. I just had spent about the first week of not doing 12-hour days going down to the World Trade Center. Now, a week later, they started trying to get the police department to get back to normal.
9:14. Flight 587 lifts off.
Positive rate, gear up, please.
Ground control at JFK wishes them well and instructs Molen and States to contact New York departures. 9:15. Flight 587 is now at 1,700 feet. 1 second later, the plane begins to shake. The pilots know the turbulence is likely to have come from the Japan Airlines Jumbo up ahead. It's a routine hazard, and Molen flies through it. But seconds later, the plane hits more turbulence. Sten Molen takes decisive action. Using his foot controls, he applies the rudder first to the right and then to the left to try and stabilize the plane.
Hang on to it. Hang on to it.
89 seconds after takeoff, Flight 587 is in trouble.
What the hell are we into? I'm stuck in it. Get out of it. Get out of it.
As the plane spins out of control, the engines shear off. At 9:16 and 15 seconds, Flight 587 slams into the ground.
We are just learning from Associated Press that there has been a plane crash in Queens.
Hector Algaroba is having breakfast in a diner, having left his parents at the airport.
The word that we have is that it is an American Airlines jet.
His blood runs cold. The plane has crushed 4 houses on the intersection of Newport Avenue and Beach 131st Street. Across the road, 5 more houses are ablaze. One of these belongs to Police Inspector Michael Morley. When he arrives at the scene, he is horrified. His own loved ones are lost in the heart of the raging inferno, yet he's also the officer in charge of the scene.
I'm just a regular guy, and all of a sudden you're the highest-ranking police officer on the scene of a major catastrophe like this. I knew in a little while the whole police department's going to start responding, and everybody's going to come and be helping out. But for right now, I'm in charge. What do you do?
When senior police chiefs arrive, they hear his baby son and mother-in-law are missing.
And one of the chiefs says, "Hey, Mike, what are you still doing here?" I said, "I'm just trying to help out, boss." And he says, "Get out of here, go find your family."
More and more people, desperate for information, arrive at the scene of the tragedy. Among them, Hector Algaroba. He believes his parents were on the plane, but is praying for a miracle.
The hope was somehow all the smoke and all the fire that I'm seeing is from some sort of impact of the plane trying to land. And there has been a lot of people that survive.
Michael Morley races frantically from house to house, desperately hoping his loved ones will be sheltering with a neighbor.
Eleanor! Hey, Mike, get over here! John, they're right there! They're right there!
I saw him. It was a fantastic feeling because 2 seconds earlier, I'm starting to panic, thinking maybe they really were dead, and you turn around and there they were.
But for each moment of joy, there are 100 of despair. With the fire under control, the body count and identification of victims is underway. Mayor Giuliani meets the bereaved families and personally gives Hector the news he is dreading.
He hugged me and gave me his condolences by telling me that my parents were on that flight.
It's just 2 months and 1 day since 9/11. The parallels with America's worst terrorist outrage are striking. America looks for answers. How did Flight 587 end in catastrophe? Why did one of the most reliable aircraft in service break up in mid-air and come crashing down on a residential suburb? Now, by going deep into the investigation, we can reveal the facts behind one of the worst aviation disasters in US history, and how the truth sent shockwaves through the entire industry. Less than an hour after the crash, 21 NTSB officials, the GO team as they are called, are on their way. The man in charge is Bob Benson, a veteran investigator who's handled 94 major air disasters.
It was particularly important for us to get this one right the first time. There was no payback in changing our minds or anything like that.
Benson and the team start gathering evidence at the crash site. Potentially crucial clues also come from the surrounding area. Both engines landed 245 meters before the plane. One fell onto a house, the other on a service station. The debris is scattered everywhere. Police and army boats are called in to gather parts from Jamaica Bay. Then, Benson personally witnesses a major discovery as he drives along the coast road. A crane is lifting the tail fin from the water.
That really got our attention.
The tail fin is an essential component of the aircraft. Without it, an airliner simply cannot fly. The fin was found floating in the water 1.2 kilometers behind the main crash site. For the investigators, this is clear evidence that it must have been one of the first parts to break away. But what could have caused such a catastrophic failure? Of the hundreds of eyewitnesses who saw the crash, there is no doubt. This was a bomb. As the team begin to examine the tail fin, the FBI start looking for any trace of explosives. They are also hoping to find two other key pieces of evidence: the plane's black boxes. Each of the black boxes might unlock the mystery of the crash, but lead investigator Bob Benson knows finding either of them is likely to take days. Even then, they could be badly damaged. But just hours into the search comes an amazing stroke of luck. Marion Blakey, spokeswoman for the NTSB, makes an announcement.
We have recovered the cockpit voice recorder.
Finding the cockpit voice recorder is a huge step forward. Although the recorder is damaged, the tape is still intact and is rushed to NTSB headquarters in Washington. Every word, every sound is carefully analyzed. 89 seconds into the flight comes a chilling sound on the tape. There is a loud bang. Immediately afterwards, the crew can be heard struggling with the controls.
You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Hang on to it. Hang on to it.
Could this bang be the sound of an explosion? With the second black box, the flight data recorder still missing in the smoking wreckage, Benson knows that the truth will be hard to find.
Without that, it makes telling the story more speculative and more difficult.
Then comes a dramatic development. Investigators get the news they have been desperate to hear. Searchers have recovered the flight data recorder. But the relief is short-lived. The black box is damaged. The NTSB sent it back to the manufacturers to see what, if anything, can be retrieved. Now, the tail fin that was found floating in Jamaica Bay is starting to yield vital clues. The first thing investigators notice is that the fin is built from a high-tech material called reinforced carbon fiber composite. Often used in racing cars and sports equipment, composites consist of layers of carbon fibers bound tightly together with resin. But when investigators look closely, immediately alarm bells begin to ring. There are 6 main attaching points connecting the tail to the fuselage. All 6 have given way. There has never been a plane crash caused by a composite failure, but Benson can rule nothing out.
You have to imagine a force large enough to break 6 attaching points made out of one of the strongest materials in the world. 6 of these holding the vertical stabilizer on, and all of them broke. So the forces had to be just tremendous.
The detail of the failure is what worries the team. Plans show how each of the 6 attaching points has 2 lugs. One made from aluminium, the other from composites, connected by a titanium bolt. The damage shows that the metal lugs and the bolts remained intact, but the composite lugs all gave way. Benson has to consider the appalling prospect that the composite material itself may be faulty. Proving that the carbon fiber is to blame will need hard physical evidence. Benson urgently dispatches the stabilizer to specialist labs at NASA to see if they can detect any weakness. Using scanning electron microscopes, Experts check over 3,000 square centimeters of surface, magnifying the material by up to 5,000 times as they search for any imperfection. After hundreds of hours of work studying Airbus's design and construction methods, NASA and NTSB scientists finally give the plane a clean bill of health. While the news is welcome, it only serves to deepen the mystery. Then, just as the investigation seems to have stalled, comes a vital turning point. Information from the damaged flight data recorder has at last been retrieved. But no one is prepared for the startling picture that the flight data recorder will give. The focus of the entire investigation suddenly shifts from the machine to the man flying it, co-pilot Sten Molen. 83 seconds after takeoff, the recorder shows that Molen applied 5 extreme movements of the rudder, causing the plane to lurch violently from side to side. They realized that traveling at nearly 470 kilometers per hour, the aerodynamic stresses on the 130-ton Airbus would have been extraordinary. It seems as though on the 5th movement of the rudder, the entire tail fin broke off. The implication is shocking. Simply by manipulating the controls, the pilot broke the aircraft. The NTSB is so concerned, they take immediate action. On February 8th, 2002, they issue a special warning to all pilots of this new danger.
The focus of the investigation turned to the first officer and why he would manipulate the rudder as he did.
Benzon knows the rudder is seldom used in flight. It's a powerful steering aid designed to correct the course of an aircraft in certain specific situations. Landing in a crosswind would be one. Steering the plane with only one engine, another. But at high speed, the pilot would not normally use the rudder at all. Now the question is, why would he do such a thing? They listen again to the cockpit voice recorder.
We're supposed to be 5 miles by the time we're airborne.
One possible theory is wake turbulence. Wake turbulence is all too familiar to accident investigators. It's a region of spinning air left behind as a plane passes. These vortices can sometimes turn a following plane upside down. But the team quickly realized that this cannot be the cause of the crash. The turbulence was not strong enough to seriously affect a plane the size of the Airbus. Then, the investigation team interview Molen's friends and colleagues, and they discover a vital piece of information. A pilot and former colleague recalls an earlier trip with Molen. During an encounter with turbulence, he used the rudder aggressively, even though there was no apparent risk to the plane. When questioned at the time, Molen said he had been trained to use the rudder in this way by American Airlines. If this is true, it raises serious concerns for Benzon and the team.
One would assume that if many pilots go through the same training program with some flaws in it, then a lot of pilots have wrong ideas about how to fly an airplane.
The airline confirms one of their programs does indeed teach pilots to use the rudder to recover from unusual situations, as seen in this training video.
And if you don't put that rudder in, what's going to happen? When you get to this portion of the roll, she's going to slice out just like that.
Next, Benzon looks at the other tools used to train the pilots, particularly the high-tech flight simulators. Here, pilots are taught to react to a range of emergencies, including wake turbulence. In one of those scenarios, Benzon discovers that the pilots learned to use the rudder very aggressively. Airbus themselves had already written to the airline saying this practice was a cause for concern. At a public hearing, American Airlines claimed that Airbus had not explained there were limits to the use of the rudder. The airline also claimed that the rudder system on the aircraft was very sensitive, and that pilots might not be aware how much rudder they were really applying. The NTSB investigate and discover the rudder control system is highly sensitive. What's more, the controls of the plane become more sensitive as the plane increases speed. On the ground, the rudder pedal has to be depressed by 10 centimeters to get maximum deflection. But when flying at high speed, that distance reduces to just 4 centimeters. NTSB officials are shocked to find that this system is not explained in training manuals. Then finally come the results from the analysis of Molin's 5 rudder inputs. They confirm what nobody really wants to believe, that it's indeed possible to tear the tail fin from an aircraft in flight by stamping violently on the foot pedals. Now Benson and the team can see exactly what happened to Flight 587. 5 minutes to disaster. Flight 587 awaits clearance for takeoff.
Taxi in position and hold.
As a Japanese 747 airliner takes off. 30 seconds later, Flight 587 is given a warning of wake turbulence.
Clear to land, wind 260 at 14, caution with turbulence.
2 minutes to disaster, Flight 587 takes off.
Positive rate, gear up, please.
1 minute to disaster, 587 encounters turbulence for the first time. Sten Molen flies through it. 30 seconds to disaster, 587 hits a second, larger wave of turbulence. The plane is now banking to the left, reminding Molen of his simulator training.
Rudder movement.
Not realizing how sensitive the rudder system becomes in flight, Molen stamps on the pedal, causing maximum rudder deflection. The plane swings violently to the right, placing enormous loads on the tail fin. Both Molen and States believe the plane is somehow caught in the turbulence.
What the hell are we into? I'm stuck in it! Get out of it!
And in a desperate attempt to get control, Molen applies another rudder input. Finally, on the 5th rudder input, all 6 lugs connecting the tail to the fuselage tear apart. 106 seconds after takeoff, Flight 587 falls from the sky. 265 people are dead. Important lessons have been learned from the tragedy. Airbus have issued a bulletin reminding pilots how to use the rudder, and American Airlines have modified their training program. Together with the NTSB, the aviation industry has moved to ensure that such a terrible accident will never happen again.